Hey folks, just wanted to take a second to mention our sponsor for today's show. Lawnwork Solution is a landscape company that will get your yard looking plush. And I know this because I'm a client, and only after 2 treatments, it looks phenomenal. It's a great locally owned company. Brad, he's an awesome guy. So give him a call to come down there and look at your property, and he'll let you know exactly what you need. It could be a variety of different things. So that's Lawnworks, LAWNWORX Solutions on Facebook, or give them a call at 540-493-7286. Now, they don't handle the lawn mowing side of things anymore, but if you want a reliable person to come mow your yard, check out Skilo's Lawn Care. Freddie Hodges, super reliable. Anytime I've got an issue, I'm in a bind, I need somebody to come mow my yard, I'll shoot him a message. He'll give me a dime. He'll be by there, and boom, it's that simple. Good, hardworking people, locally ran, and you can get a hold of Freddie at 540-493-3076 for Stilo's Lawn Care. And let's get back into the show. Welcome to the Appalachian Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me, as always, is my gullible co-host, Jeff Taylor. Bodine.
Gullible? What does that mean?
We're not even going to go there. We got an awesome episode for you today. We are sitting up here in Ferrum, Virginia, with some incredible guests here, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. First to my left is Charlie Mitchell, and about everybody in Franklin County is going to know who Charlie is. So, Charlie, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Appreciate you having your time. We're going to get into how everybody here is connected after we get done introducing everybody. Our second guest is somebody that most of our listeners will recognize. He's been on a ton of our shows. It's Chris Williams, the director of the Smart Modified Tour. Chris, welcome back and appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to this one.
And this one is a special one today for our guest. Chris had reached out to me sometime last year after we'd started getting a lot of these legendary drivers from around here on the show. And this specific guest, Chris and I have been discussing for about a year now, so I'm finally glad that we're getting this one out of the way. We're up here in Ferrum, Virginia, and we are speaking to the legendary Paul Radford. Paul, welcome to the Appalachian Podcast.
Glad to be here. Now,
you can't go anywhere in this town without anybody knowing who you are, and there's a lot of stories behind that.
That's right. I'm pretty well known all around Franklin County.
So, I guess the first question we got to ask is, how did you get into racing? Because you are, like we said, probably the biggest name in the whole area.
Well, about 1952, Curtis Turner was running the races at Victory Stadium. And so Chester Rakes and I went over there and watched the race one night and came back, and Chester said to me, he said, I'll build you a car if you want to drive one. I said, I'll drive it. So we put an old car together. All we did was take the fenders off of it and didn't have nothing, didn't know how to fix nothing, but we cut the fenders up, made it light as we could. And we went over there, and the first race, it was probably, I don't know, the track was full of cars. I guess it was probably 30, 40 cars, and I don't know where I started, but I was passing everything that I come to, and I still thought I had some to pass, and I saw the checker flag, and I ended up winning the thing. I didn't really realize it. And so the next race I went over there, there's a guy from Rocky Mountain. He was driving one of the old cars too, and he wrecked me, so I was called into the Army then, and I got hooked on racing. Then, and after I come back out of the Army, I got back into racing.
You started at the right time, that's for sure. Because everything back then, it was just a hardboard seat, right? You had one little safety belt across your waist. What?
had a daggone bumper off of 37 Ford go across the top, and the cast iron water pipe come down the side of the door. It was welded in. And
Wow.
then I had a seat out of a school bus. That's what I had to sit in.
Safety. It was real safe on it.
And which we run limited sportsmen, you know, we was doing flatheads. And so we put a hook on the dash and run second gear. We run second gear all the time, and we just hook it in second gear. And back then, we had, you know, you run 40, 50 pound iron tires. And the other things so much different then, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I know one time over at Starkey, Ray LaPrade, a friend of mine out of Rocky Mount, he wanted me to ride around with me. So naturally, I'm going to take him around as fast as I could.
Scare him to death.
And over at Starkey, the first and second turn was no fence. So I blew the tire going.
Oh,
and that scared that poor thing to death. And it didn't turn over, but it went out of the track, you know. But
the best ride there was right there.
Was Starkey dirt or was it asphalt?
it was asphalt. I know they'd run on it when it was dirt. But I went to it one time when they had the big boards, you know, the NASCAR boards, and Rex White was driving a number 4 Chevrolet.
Yep.
And a friend of mine, my dad was there, and so he bet me $1. He took that 4 and gave me the field. So I took it, and Rex led every lap.
Yeah. Back then he did. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, tell them boys, first time you went to Daytona and they black flagged you, what happened?
Yeah, I went down there, and when I first went down there, the old car wasn't right, and Mason had to go went to another town down there. I forget what the little town was, and worked on the car all night so that I could drive it. So I got out there the next day and got on the track and going around, come around and go to throw the white flag on me. So I come back around and I come up.
Throw the black flag on
I
you.
Black
throw the
flag.
black flag
Yeah.
on me, and I said, come up and the guy come up to the door, and he says, I said, what's wrong? He says, I don't know where you've been racing, but down here, says, you have to have a helmet. So I forgot to put my helmet on.
Yeah, that would have been a rough crash. Did you race down to New Smyrna quite a bit back then too? Or did you run down at Smyrna down at Daytona?
No, I never did. I went to Smyrna one time with some guys from up New York. They had a modified that, and they had called me one time when I was in about 4th in points, and
Yeah.
I wanted to keep points, so I called the promoter up in New York and run Long Island. I said, can you get me a ride? And he said, yes. I said, come on up, I get you a ride. So me and my buddy, old Big Smith, we drove all night, got up there the next morning, and found out where the garage was, the thing, and found the van I was supposed to drive for. And they wrecked it that night. They wrecked it, and they was having to work on it. So they said, don't worry about it. Said, y'all just go out and sleep in the car, and we'll have it ready for you at race time. So they did. They had it ready. But when I got in that car and went out to Long Island, I never been there before, and I didn't have no feel. I just didn't have no feel at all. They had power steering. I never had power steering before.
Yeah.
So I come back in. I said, I can't drive this thing. I said, what is there anything you do to get me a little feel in it? He said, yeah, but so I have to go back to shop. So you probably missed practice. So I said, give me one more practice. So he gave me another practice, and I got feeling a little better with it, you know. So I said, I believe it'll be all right. And we ran 200 laps, and I finished third behind Richie Evans and Jerry Cook.
Yeah. I tell you what, you back in the day, you probably honed your skills, and I know just enough where, you ran a little moonshine, maybe done a little stuff like that. I won't get into that too much, but you started traveling pretty much everywhere. I mean, where there was a racetrack. I mean, I know you ran Trenton. I know you ran up north quite a bit, and it was a lot of different breed of drivers up there too, right?
Yes, sir. And I made friends with all the drivers, and they treat me nice, and I enjoyed going up there and racing with them. And I always wanted to win that racing champion. That's the only race I didn't get in my career. I wanted that one, and I come close a couple of times. And just had bad luck.
You led. You was talking earlier. You led about every lap up there one year, didn't you?
Yeah. I sat on pole. I've had that little gremlin. We sat on pole with it, and so my racing career has been real good to me, and I've really enjoyed it. And Jack Tant, man that worked with him all the time, Clayton Mitchell.
Oh, Clayton Mitchell.
Clayton Mitchell called me one time to drive down at Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I've been telling people all along, I says, any 10 drivers can take that car and win. I said, it ain't the driver as much as it is the car. I said, but when he called me and I told him that I would drive it, I worried about it all week. Now I got to win this race. So when I get down there and I get in the car and I get a little practice and come in. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "I need another practice." So I went out and practiced again and come back in. He said, "How about putting a right rear tire on it?" I said, "That sounds good." So he put a right rear tire on it, and I went out and come back in. He said, "Now what do you think now?" I said, "It feels better." And he said, "You're in the ball game now."
Yeah, back then it didn't take a lot to change those cars back in the day.
No.
Nowadays it's totally different ball game. To be honest with you, I know you went to Permatex. I know the 300 down there. I know in that Gremlin of Clarence's, you dominated that thing one year, and I think you ended up breaking right there at the end. And I know you led every lap until it broke. That thing was pretty sporty, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've had really good luck down at Bonneville, but I really didn't like that track to start with. Just like Winston-Salem, I didn't like that track at all.
Stadium. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people do that races it because they know what it brings out in you, but it's a challenge.
I told John Ziegler, I said, "Let's go somewhere else. I don't like this track." He says, "Let's go back Saturday night." We went back Saturday night, and I passed everybody on the outside. I couldn't believe it. I won that race, but he had it set up where I could pass on the outside, and you can't do that no more than that.
I think Bert done it this week for the first time in years. It's somebody passed on the outside, so it's the first time. You're 100% correct. Paul, you've raced for a lot of what we consider legendary car builders in the South. Who's one of the coolest stories, or the person that you ran with that was just fun to race with them? I mean, I know you've done Clarence, I know Mason, I know Speedy Thomas. I mean, you've run with the best. How fun was it?
Well, I enjoyed driving for Lawrence Paul in the sports.
I forgot about him.
Chubby.
Yeah.
He would listen to me and try. So if I said something, he would try. You know, if it worked, it worked, and didn't it wasn't. But Speedy Thomas, it was his way or no way.
Yep.
And but him and Clayton Mitchell were good friends, and he was real good with the carburetor, and Clayton was real good on setting it up. And Clayton Mitchell was the reason I won both of them races at Bonneville.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I qualified about the 14th or something, and Speedy says, "Let's go back tomorrow and let's see if we get a little better." So I said, "Okay." So we go back over the next morning, and I said, "Speedy, I can't drive a car." I said, "What have you done to it?" I raised it about that much," he said. So I went and told Clayton. I said, "Clayton, Speedy's best the car up." And you know how Clayton talked. He goes over there and he says, "Speedy, Radford don't like that car. Put it back like it was." And we won that race.
Yeah.
That's the reason we won that race.
That's pretty awesome. I asked Speedy, I was talking to him a couple of months ago, and I said, "Hey, I know you've had a lot of people in your car." I said, who's the best that you've ever had? And he leaned back for a second. He said, I don't know. He said, I had one that was smooth as silk, and I had one that was really aggressive and drive the wheels off of it. I said, Satch must have been the smoothest. He said he was. He said, but Paul, he said he'd will it. So, I mean, he gave you the kudos, both of y'all, the best two people that's been in his race car, which I thought was pretty cool.
Well, they killed me when he won both of them races, and that was in '77. And Mom and Daddy said I wasn't old enough to go to the after party. About killed me.
That killed you?
They had a party down here at his restaurant.
At the restaurant back in that day, yeah.
Yeah, Smitty, the one he was talking about earlier, they had a big old party, and they wouldn't let me go.
So you didn't go?
I almost walked from Snow Creek to Ferrum.
Oh, well, you should have.
Can I ask you a question about Trenton? We've heard people talk about Trenton because I know how it was banked, how it was shaped. What was it like the first time that you went and actually made a lap around Trenton with that weird dog leg in the back?
Well, the first time I went, the dog leg wasn't in it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And they had, that track had little marbles like rocks on it. And that's before they changed it. Sonny Hudson was driving that number 90 for the guy at Richmond, Don Levy.
Yeah.
And them little rocks knocked his windshield out. He didn't have plexiglass. He had regular windshield, and he was holding he was holding his helmet. I passed him, and he tickled me. He was holding that helmet on the dial. It's comical.
I bet it was.
But he stayed on that day. He had rocks.
How was Sonny to race with? Sonny Hutchins.
Sonny Hudson was the dirtiest driver I ever drove with.
It's funny you said that because Dale Earnhardt told me the exact same thing. He says the dirtiest driver he's ever raced.
He's the dirtiest driver I ever drove with. Ray Hint would try to pass you before he spun you. But Sonny, he hits you right over.
So who was the hardest person to drive? Like, who was the hardest person to pass in your career? Who was the toughest one to pass that you raced against?
Well,
I know it's loaded. Somebody may be good and some just drive like a squirrel. I understand that, but I'm just saying, who was really tough to pass back when you was racing?
I guess Ray was. Ray.
Yeah. I would say Ray or Richie.
Okay, I run second to him a million times.
Yeah. We just left Wilkesboro doing the revival, and I know you won down there. Tell us a little bit about that victory. I can kind of set it up. I know it was the year where Richie and Bodine got into it at Martinsville, and I know Wilkesboro was the next week, and I know you was in Speedy's car, and I know Richie destroyed his car, but he wanted to stay and run that points race at Wilkesboro, and I know he fixed that car and went to it, but I think you had a little outcome. I think you changed the outcome, didn't you, a little bit? I think he ended up blowing up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up blowing on the last lap, and you ended up winning the race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that the only victory you had at Wilkesboro that you know of?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah. You liked that place, though, didn't you?
I did. I really loved it. And the only time that I went there and know that we was cheating, drive for Chubby.
Go figure.
They had worked on the tires, and they were going to slick these tires on me, and I qualified about fifth or something other, but I made that mistake and missed the daggone driver's meeting.
Yeah.
And they put me in the rear, and I ended up in a wreck on the first and second lap.
That's horrible.
And I hate that worse than anything. And that's the only time that I've ever known that I was illegal. Now, I've been to Callaway several times with Chubby and come home thinking I'd won a race and think about called the next morning for my money, and he said, "Oh, they disqualified us."
Did you verify that?
But Chubby was a good one. I liked him. He was good.
Yeah. What's of all the racetracks you went to, and I know you've been pretty much up and down the East Coast. I know you said you couldn't really care too much for the stadium, even though you won there quite a bit. What I'm talking about driving wise. What's the track that you enjoyed going to a lot?
The little South Side Speedway, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Franklin County. I enjoyed Franklin County Speedway too, and they are real close racing, fast.
Yep.
And I know we could like go fast enough.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you one thing: it's different when you get on them 2.5 mile tracks. It changes. You don't have any. Well, I didn't race enough. I was just getting to the point that I was enjoying the super speedway at Charlotte when I crashed out down there. People crashed in front of me, and I T-boned Pete Silvers.
Oh yeah.
I T-boned him, and I didn't think I was ever going to get my breath. Cut my tongue, bit my tongue, put 3 stitches in my tongue. I don't know. I said a bad word, I guess.
I bet you did. Charlie, what you got on your mind? I see you thinking over there.
I was going to tell him he's talking about the big drivers right there. Tell him what happened when Dale Earnhardt and them was going to race the modifieds with you.
Is that Metrolina?
Oh, yeah, Metrolina. Then we raced down there one time on dirt, and he's driving for Johnny Bryant's car.
Yeah, I remember the 7. Yep.
And I spun him out.
Oh, Lord.
And every time I see him after that, he'd always say, "Why did you spin me out?" But the last time I had a talk with him, we were good friends. He always was a good friend and invited me to his hall over time. We would go to the track where they's at. And last time I raced with him up at New River, he qualified third and I qualified fifth. And at the drivers' meeting, I told him, I said, "Now, you go on in that corner when you get the green flag, okay, I ain't got no brakes." He said, "I ain't done nothing either."
And I'll tell you right now, 79, I know Petty got mad at Earnhardt. He started like 15th on the inside row, and he wrecked Petty running third on the green flag lap going into turn 1. And that was a butt chewing. I remember that quite well. But
15th to 3rd, good Lord.
Dude, go watch it. It's a fact. It's exactly what happened.
And this was who?
Earnhardt. He started like 15th. When they gave the green flag, he pulled to the inside, he passed everybody, and he spun Petty out and wrecked the field on the first lap. Go look at it. 79 or 80. But, I mean, I remember Earnhardt telling me what a chewing out he got by Petty. It was bad.
And what track was that at?
Martinsville. Okay. Yeah. Go check it out. We got pictures of it somewhere, the whole field wrecked. What's the race that you've always wanted to win that kind of stuck in your craw? I asked this to every driver. Like, what is that race that you wanted to win that just couldn't get it done for whatever reason?
And racing champions.
Yeah.
And racing champions. I got them close twice.
Yeah. Did you run Pocono at all? You ran Pocono?
Yeah. Last time I ran up there, I believe it was the last time me and Smitty ran us out. They run a sportsman on Saturday and modified on Sunday. Well, sportsman got rained out, and I finished 7th in the modified, I believe it was. I think Sats maybe finished 5th, and I finished 7th, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. And then next day, I run the sportsman, and I run 5th in it. And coming on back down to 81, me and old Smitty, there's a car kept coming up, backing up, coming up. I said, "Smitty, I believe he wants to race." I got on it a little bit, and all of a sudden, wow, that siren come on. Smitty said, "Yeah, he wants to race, all right." Cost me $75. I had to put up cash.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good.
Hey, Tim Harris got me like that on 220 one time. I was running about $120, leaving. We had an army banquet, a military banquet down in Martinsville. Me and a couple buddies got back running Mustangs. Probably hit about 120. And all of a sudden I see an Impala coming up on me fast. I was like, "Well, shoot it. He wants to race too. I'm going to let him get up beside me and kick it." About that time I looked over at him, it was Harris sitting there pointing me to get the hell over.
And there you were.
Yeah.
So speaking of you, have you asked Paul yet about?
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, I wanted to. I got so many questions. One I wanted to ask for sure though was, when you started driving, as Chris alluded to earlier, had you already honed your skills behind the wheel, running from the law? And if so, does the name Don Riddle ring a bell?
Well, I had a lot of practice running from the law. be honest with you, it looks like I went out looking for him, but I know they tried to dodge him. I wasn't smart. I didn't try to, be real smart with my bootlegging, and I just went when I wanted to, when I had to, But I've had a lot of races, and but the first race I run when I was just a teenager, and I was still working with my dad at the barbecue, and I was coming back from been to see a little old gal, and I was coming back down the ride off Bowles Hill, what they call Bowles Hill, and in a 36 Ford, running about 90 miles an hour. I guess I'll run, and I met this fireball. First, I think it was the first state trooper come to Rocky Mountain, and he had a 48 Ford, I believe, and he turned around on me. So I just kept going wide open, come over to the barbecue. He had to come into Ferrum. When he come into Ferrum, I took it left and went down the old switch road, which it was dirt road then. Yeah. And I dusted him out, and I made a loop. He'd come back out and come right back within a mile of the barbecue where I was going to go to work, and put my car in a man's barn and walked to the barbecue and went to work. And my dad, he got all of me. Didn't have no driver's license, He got all of me, But a week or two later, I was in one room, and he was in another room talking to some guys, and he was bragging on us. That Paul, he outrun the state trooper.
That ain't good. That ain't good.
What about these stories Charlie was telling us coming up the road about getting those pools going at the restaurant?
Yeah, I told him. Mama said some of the old guys at the down at the restaurant when she was younger said they'd get a little pool together, and you'd come up, ag on one of the police, and bring them back down through there, see if you could outrun them. Yeah, Mama said everything's quiet, and you'd hear the sirens coming and say, "Won't long up, Paul, go by." Back then, wasn't no traffic on the road. You go from Ferrum to Rocky Mountain, you might meet one car. I know me and Clifford Ball, which he used to ride me, but haul my bootleg, And he had a 58 Plymouth, and I had a 58 Chevrolet, where he was. We parked side by side right there in Ferrum, and we raced to the barbecue. And we never did gain. It didn't meet nobody, and but one of us had to give because we run side by side the whole distance. It's unreal.
You wasn't gonna give, were you?
Paul, tell him about your dad's truck. You come to Ferrum, man. It had just a little bit of. I believe Daddy said it was just a little bit of sugar in the back floorboard or something or other, but the laws run you going back towards Rocky Mountain. You got in there before you get to Midkiss, and the distributor come off of it or something or other that quit.
Yeah, it was here in Ferrum, and old Ward was sitting down there, and me and Troy had been down to get some sugar to carry to the steel place. I had a steel place running, and as we popped up there in Ferrum, there he said at the post office. Ward said, so we eased up the bank and going down there. I had a key to the barbecue, and we had gas down there then, and I was about out of gas. So we went down, filled up gas. I said, if he runs us now, he's got us. We ain't got enough gas to run fall. But I filled up gas and come back. I said, he'd be gone time to get back up there. So when I popped over the door there, he sat, and time I pulled up on the railroad track, he was on my bumper. And we let it right out up at the college wide open. And I pulled away from him. I stopped with him, and then they're going to, William had worked on the motor that day or something other, and the distributor or something, 100 mile an hour is all it would run. And I got up that way trying to go across the Turners Creek Road. I throwed it in there, and I put that right front wheel from over the pipe. The pipe goes under the road there. Yeah. And Troy, he done got down under the dash. But to start with, going up by the college, he says, you gaining on, you gaining on. The guy going up a little further. He's gaining on you. He got down in the flow bowl. But we made that loop around and come back out up at Crossroads. And I was storing whiskey out there, the next house out from it. And I was keeping all my stuff out there. And we pulled in out there and parked my car, and we walked up to the edge of the road. A few minutes here, come old Ward. He come up he went around and around about 3 or 4 times. Then he went down towards 10.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there.
He told me a time or two. He killed me to get out and run. He come from West Virginia somewhere, and he said he just killed for anybody to outrun him.
I bet you he had a souped up car too.
Had to.
I had to have.
Well, Paul, you need to tell him. You need to tell him his story. And Mom has this news article on him when the state trooper, they took 2 or 3 cases out the back of your truck, decided he was going to ride with you, see where you was going.
Yeah, I was coming out from the steel place and had 26 cases of whiskey, and I had sideboards on the truck, and had 200 feet of plastic hose on top of that. And where I come out into the highway, which is Tunnels Creek Road, the man was with me that made the whiskey. He lived about 1,000 yards after I hit the road out there, But before I got to the hard top, it's this old logging road that I was on coming out from steel place. Something stepped on the back of my daggone truck. And it stopped beating on the back glass. Hollering, halt, law.
Yeah.
So at that time, I done got on the hard top and I took off.
Threw him out.
No, I didn't throw him.
Oh, he stayed home?
Yeah, let him tell you about this ride.
He was on top of all them hoses on that and beating on the back glass with that pistol. And I was getting faster and faster. And he quit that. He must have laid down and started holding on to the side. But got up there to what they call the dirt road that goes across the mountain up there. I got on it instead of standing on the hard top. I got on it. It comes back out over what we call the old dry hill school, and so I had to hit some upgrades, and I had to put the second gear, and I slowed down a little bit. When I slowed down some, he started shooting. I kept pap, pap, pap.
Wow! Shooting through the back.
Wow! And to start with, he must have been trying to shoot the tire down. The next time, he come through the back glass. That doesn't nerve me then. I told him, the guy with me, he kept hollering, just stop, let me out, stop, let me out. So I told him, I said, well, I'm going to let him have it. I said, I'm going to give him I hate to give my damn truck up.
Yeah.
And I says, you get your fast light, and I got mine. I says, well, I'm going to throw the brakes on, and I'm going to keep him up against the cab. And I says, I'll see you later. I'm going one way and you go another. And when I went out that before I got out of the road in the woods, you son of a bitch, you bow. That was the last time I reckon. And I went through the woods and I knew where I was at, and I went to a fellow's house and he brought me home. And I reckon during that time they found out somewhere or another that who I was and everything. And I had come home and got rid of some whiskey. I had a carload of whiskey there, and I pulled it out in the woods, and I got my truck where I had the coke where I was making the rye liquor,
right.
Steam liquor.
Yep.
And I had wanted to get that truck with that coke on out of the way, and coming out, I met them coming in.
Yeah.
So I come out of my dad's driveway into 40 and met them. They come back, and I went up there just about, I don't know, right around the caravan where Leo Scott's farm is. And I pulled in that field over through the fence.
Went through the fence.
Get out of that truck and I run again. So after that, I stayed kind of on that run for a while.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Stayed on the run. I didn't stay home none. And me and my buddy and a couple of buddies went to a movie in Bonneville. I come out of the theater to my car, and they had surrounded.
They found you.
They got you.
Yeah, they got you.
So I spent the night in jail. I had to call my wife and say, well, my head's on the pillow in jail. Now you
Paul said he actually felt bad though for the ATF officer in the back of that truck, because he said he went out the road a time or two through fences over 100 mile an hour. That man on the back of that truck.
That's when he stayed in it.
Oh man! If I'd have got into the fence one time, I almost got into a fence one time. It went out that load, threw me almost on a long sweeping turn. If he'd have got in there, it'd probably killed us all.
Oh, yeah.
It killed him for sure. I feel like.
Oh,
Back then, though, I don't know when it changed, but it used to be that if the law didn't catch you, they wouldn't swear to it in court that they got you. They'd wait to actually catch you. So if they saw you take off running and you got away from them, they wouldn't go to court to swear. When did that change? Because you said they was waiting for you. I didn't think they would do that.
Well, they a lot of times they would swear to you, but most of the time they don't. But that's back then they would swear to you a lot of times. And
They seem to had a future Al Capone coming along.
I don't see how they stuck me though. Him at the middle of the night looking through the glass. I think my lawyers didn't do the job.
needed Senator Stanley on the job. That's
There
what
you
you
go.
did.
I think I could have beat that case now.
Yeah, I think you could have.
In hindsight, yeah, absolutely.
But now you know his training for his racing career, which is pretty cool, right?
Oh, he's been my hero my whole life.
Yeah.
Well, Charlie was telling us coming up the road when y'all head down to Winston-Salem, you go over Pelham and Switch, and he said people just be clenched up, butt cheeks tight, just holding on for dear life you going through there. You do better on the pavement or do better when it was dirt?
I don't know. I used to love it. I used to love it, but I got where it's pretty. I don't know. I guess the pavement would be best. But I enjoyed racing on dirt. At one time, I really would. When I was driving for Mason, we won a lot of races on dirt.
Did you run 704 at all? Did you run up at 704 in the dirt?
704.
Yeah, down in Carolina, right across the line there. Yeah, I know some people used to run a little bit there. And I was trying to think, did you run the dirt track at Franklin County before they paved it?
Yeah, I ran it one time, and rocks busted my windshield, and I had to come out. I couldn't see. I wasn't like Senator Hudson.
I didn't know it used to be dirt.
Yeah.
For just 1 year,
One
but
year.
they moved it.
Yeah, then they paved it. Yeah.
Well, Paul, whose call was that when y'all was down here on 40 that day? And I think Harmon and maybe Raymond called or somebody that they wanted you to try that car out and see if it was raceable. And you know it had a nail in the front wheel, and they wanted you to try it out anyway. You got up there about Endicott, and a tire blowed out and turned you over.
That's when we first started racing. Me and Chester X and Hubert Queen, a little old 37 coupe. We cut all the fenders and all that, just like you're going to make a race car. And we had one tire had a nail in it, and one tire with a tube showing. And we head off up at Endicott, and Chester's mama run a little store up there. And we was drinking little.
Imagine that.
And we'd take turns. Me and Chester would take turns and spinning around, showing off,
Mm-hmm.
And his mama says, "I'm gonna call it all. Y'all get out of here."
Yeah.
So we headed down to the Endicott and going up toward where Bobby Walker's trucking place is. And it's sharp turn, and it's going up grade, and it's a kind of a drop off here. Went in that curve and that tire with a damn nail in it. The one blowed out.
Blowed out. It's all over.
And the wheel dug in the hard top and turned all the way over and landed on Chester's side, and back on the wheels and went right over the bank. And Chester I can't get my breath. I can't get my breath. And Hubert stopped beating him in the back.
Yeah.
and it didn't. He went to the doctor, but it really
Just hurt his feelings, didn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
but that's how foolish we were back then.
I think they're still foolish nowadays, but it's just a different type of foolish. You can't do anything these days because you got the phones and everything. Everybody, shows what's going on. And, back in the day, you didn't have that. And it's kind of a comfort zone a little bit.
Paul, they didn't realize where the 77 restaurant that you actually owned it, and that was your car number also.
Yeah, I built that thing in 1959. Opened it up the first day of 1960. I had my little go away party, and I had my wife's cousin to take my place while I was gone. I had to go away for about a year.
I understand. Room and board.
I think you went to school, didn't you?
I had to go back to school.
I was
Your
thinking
deer's coming out, Paul.
Small one.
Your mom and 2 little ones
Yeah.
come out behind us.
I was thinking it was when he went in the military, but definitely not.
Different type of schooling. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, when we're talking about Franklin County, and Chris has brought this up a handful of times, within this distance, 50-mile radius, there's some of the best drivers and most historically known individuals in all of racing. And being from Franklin County, I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't ask for a good Whitey Taylor story, because you're bound to have one.
Well, I don't have much to say for White Taylor.
You can show them some pieces of paper that ain't no good, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't have much respect for Whitey. He does things different from me.
Yeah, he's been a big part of this town for a long, long time. So I know every driver's been through there, and about every single one of them's got a story. He's probably got a handful of dollars still in his pocket too, don't he?
But I said Paul's got some them rubber pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't know if anybody's ever documented. Have you ever thought how many races you actually won? I mean, I know people have speculated, but do you have any idea?
Well, I've kind of figured out to count my outlaw races. We run a lot of outlaw races back at one time, which everybody did. I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 200.
Yeah. Well, I know I was talking to Alan Pickerel, and I found a article, and the 72 or 73, you ran 66 races with clearances, and you won 46 of them out of 66. You only lost 20 times. That's impressive.
Yeah. And I won 55 races in Winston.
Oh, yeah.
And I won the championship at Richmond and South Boston. I didn't win as many races in South Boston as I could have, but I should have. We run a race down there one time. I believe it was 400 laps.
Yeah, it was. Seen it.
And I don't know who I was driving for then or what car I was driving, but I crashed out with maybe 10 or 15, 20 laps to go or something other. And I got out of that car, and I run around like a chicken been hit in the head with. Can't stand up.
I bet with that many laps, they ran that 350 lapper at Bowman Gray a couple times. Yeah. I know you ran it a few times back in 74. Matter of fact, Gerald Compton won one of them, 350 lapper, and but back then it was. I mean, they ran those races. Mm-hmm. The problem is they didn't have really the crew to do what they needed to do with it because half of what you was changing with the tire wrench and lug wrench. And I mean, it's just crazy of some of the stuff that y'all used to do and the places y'all used to run, because y'all used to run 3 or 4 times a week.
I run one 4th of July, I believe it was. They run Beltsville,
Maryland. Yep.
On Friday night,
mm-hmm.
and Manassas on Saturday night. Saluda run on Thursday night and Sunday. I won 4 races one weekend.
In 4 days.
In 4 days.
That's crazy. I mean, that's just, I mean, back then that's what they did. They would just run from track to track to track. And
Well,
I mean, you think about what it took to get there. You know, I don't know what the entry fees were back then, and I don't know how many tires y'all could get and buy back then. Because, I mean, nowadays, I mean, there's a tire shortage going on in the world, but what did y'all used to have for tires? Did you have a change tire? Did you have?
No, we didn't have to change tires.
You just kept them on and roll with it.
We didn't run enough laps, like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But I run, Hal Smith wanted me to drive Saluda. And he bought his old modified up drive Saluda, and I didn't know where Saluda was.
How'd you get there?
Well, I raced at Bethel that night before, and so I got Wyman Buell to we was gonna run the then we was going on another race at Saluda, but anyway, what I got Wyman Buell at the time trying my car.
Yeah.
And while I was running Saluda on the dirt. And when I got there, left there that evening, everything during the day, then went out there and run the at night. And I won my car with the 22. Wyman Buell qualified for me, qualified second, but I ended up winning.
Yeah. Did you ever get approached about running Cup at all?
I wanted to so bad, but I wasn't ask nobody. I wasn't get out and ask nobody for a ride. I thought they'd want me. They'd
come and ask you. Yeah,
but I did drive 2 races. You know, I drove for Bud Arrington one time, which the promoters paid me to do that, and that guy in Richmond,
Judy
Donlevy, and I was doing good. Judy's car, man. I was past Richard Petty.
That's pretty awesome.
And I felt so good past Richard Petty, but he blowed it. I think he was having engine trouble, and he blowed. Then the next few laps, I blowed.
Yeah.
But I drove for Bud Arrington, and he had 2 cars, and I was driving one, and I qualified, and I qualified him, and was running. It was running in the top 10 at the halfway mark. And the water pump went out.
Yeah, but Buddy usually had some car issues. Buddy passed away this week. I don't know if y'all know. Yeah. And I was thinking about when Jimmy Hensley run with him. I know Satch run a couple races, but you know, Buddy would get that car qualified, and then he would change the car up a lot with different other stuff. And I know his cars back in the day. I mean, to be honest with you, probably one of the coolest independents that's ever, you know, raced. I know Junior Dunlap was considered an independent, but, you know, for Buddy to stick it out and be there every week. And I used to remember being outside. My mom and dad live on a racetrack road, and I'd always know when the race was over because he'd go by, you know, whether Rockingham or Darlington or Charlotte or whatever. And I'd always know how well he did based upon what time he went by, you know, from the payout. You know, if he come by quick, I knew he didn't finish the race. But that's pretty cool. I was wondering that, you know, about the Cup stuff. And I know you raced, like you said, you raced with Earnhardt and a lot of other different ones that, you know, became champions and people out of the ranks where you were racing. You just felt comfortable just driving modifieds and late models as much as anybody because, I mean, you won in pretty much everything you got in. And I know that I talked to a lot of car owners that, you know, said that you had drove for them and, you know, you wheeled a race car and, you know, they always knew you was going to get everything you could out of the car, which I thought is pretty impressive when talking to them. So,
yeah, winning is his own thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's what you're there for, to win.
I think if he'd have come along like 20 or 30 years later in life, he'd be one we was watching on TV.
Yeah.
Well, anymore, you got to be smart. You got to have education.
You got to have money nowadays.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
You got to have that money too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I know people say got to have daddy's money, but you know, you've got to have a relationship. It's all about relationships, and you got to have that relationship to build, you know, the opportunity to race. Bodie, what else you got?
I've just been sitting here listening. I mean, it's hard to even add anything because this has been one of the best conversations I've heard in a long time, thinking about different. And I was asking a buddy of mine today, Lowboy Foley. I seen him today at a meeting, and he said, I said, you got any Paul Radford stories for me? And he said, It took him about 3 hours to call me because he smelled too much racing fumes himself. But he said to ask you about up at, I think it was Pulaski. He said you wrecked a car up at Pulaski going through turn 1 and 2 and went clear over the fence.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, man, that's the hardest lick I guess I've ever had. I thought of 1,000 things while I was in the air.
Was it quiet?
You know, I was in the air, and I wonder how I was going to hit, and I would so many. You couldn't believe what could go through your mind in 2 seconds.
We was supposed to call you light flashing before your eyes.
But you know, when I went under this car, and it flew out of gear on me, and it had a rail, had that just an iron rail, you know.
Right. And
I went hit that, and it went out. The driver Mason's car, and it was a solid rock wall over there, and I hit that wall just head on, and it's just like Tom and Jerry cartoon. When you hit something, it's all shattered right down to the ground.
I can only imagine. I mean,
man, that was. But you know, the worst wreck I guess I've ever had is in Asheville, North Carolina. Weevil, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah,
that's a half mile there.
mm-hmm.
And all the big boys are up there. I think Bobby Allison and all that bunch from Alabama. I think almost all Alabama was there. And
yeah.
Anyway, me and Perk Brand was there, and Perk he got spun out right in front of me, and my left front wheel went over his right rear, and it started me barrel rolling like a football. It's like a football.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're showing the picture of the wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good Lord.
And I went from a flagman stand plumb into number 1. Rolling it like a football. And the other lick got harder and harder, and finally the last one pulled the steering wheel out of my hand. Instead of me letting it go, it pulled the steering wheel out of my hand, and the whole complete body was up on the motor.
Yeah.
And I had on a white uniform, and I had on shoulder harness. First, I reckon I was one of the first ones to wear shoulder harness back in. Most time you just had
the seat lap belt. Yep.
So carried me to the hospital. Well, the first thing I thought my racing career was over. I couldn't see out of my eye. I put my watch up like that, and I couldn't see, which was this side. And Hal Smith's the first one got there. And Hal said, "You all right?" I said, "I can't see, Hal." And he messed around a little while, and finally the vision come to me. And then they carried me to the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital about 4 days, I believe it was. But while I was in the hospital, this here colored woman, nurse, waited on me.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Is you the one that was in that terrible wreck at the Speedway yesterday?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "When you got out of that car, I thought you was an angel."
Had that white suit on.
That's awesome. What about your wreck at Kingsport in the 07?
Oh man!
Yeah, tell me about that one, because I see a lot of pictures of that thing.
I tell you what, I don't know what happened out there. I blame Speedy Tom.
I would too.
I think something broke on the front of that car.
Yeah.
Me and Rich Evans going around like 2 squirrels going up and down a tree. I mean, we were just bumper to bumper, and all of a sudden, mine just went straight into
into the wall.
I mean.
Throttle didn't hang neither. Just something broke.
This something. I think that he covered it up. He covered the car up.
Yeah.
So I just, and then we fell out of it. I mean, I might have said some things I should have said. He hired
heat of the moment, it happens.
He hired Satch after that. But anyway, I always thought that he done a lot of wire welding.
Right.
And I think something broke on the front of that car. I think now that's what I think.
Yeah, I know it was a hard lick.
It was.
You had one at Callaway too, didn't you, Paul? Did the throttle hang on you up there one night, practicing on a Wednesday?
I had that little old coupe that I bought off of Donald Bryant at 07, almost won that $10,000. I was practiced up there, and they had the walls was cross ties,
Yep.
and I got into that wall with my right front, and the wheel dug in, and they found my glasses on the outside the track,
Oh,
and
wow.
and but I was out on a cheek when I hit the wall on this side.
Mm.
You know, that was a hard lick too, but the worst lick was up at Asheville Weevil, I think.
I don't know. Getting your eyeball knocked out is a pretty hard lick.
Somebody said it was laying out on my cheek. I don't know.
You couldn't see it, could you?
I couldn't see.
Well, that,
Sorry, man. I'm sorry I had to.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, did you not even remember the aftermath of that one at Callaway and your eyes laying out? I mean, it
No, I sure don't. I don't remember. I don't remember.
wake up in the hospital.
How do you put an eyeball back in? I mean,
I don't know.
Just pop it back in yourself?
Yeah.
Is it
No,
like,
they did.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out.
I had so daggone many concussions, and back then they didn't call them concussions. They just called it a wreck.
Yeah, good point. I mean, you know, you think about how fast y'all are going, and I've looked at all those old coupes and coaches, and I sit in them, and it's just a board you're sitting on. And, you know, your head probably moves when you wreck. It probably moves 2 foot or more. There's no way you don't hit your head on a roll bar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I thought about that many a time, and I know it's progressed, you know, since Earnhardt passed. It's progressed tremendously forward, but, you know, especially in a modified, because they were built for speed, low to the ground. I mean, you know, it's just hardly any protection.
A rocket on wheels.
Well, I mean, everybody says it, you know, it is. It's like being an astronaut, you know, strapped themselves into a rocket, and that's what you did.
Well, right now, you know, all this year cars they got now, they're racing now, just nothing but modifieds.
Oh, yeah.
It's more like modified than modified are.
That's a true statement.
Wide wheels, tires, all that stuff. It's not stock stuff.
Do you still watch racing much anymore?
Oh, I watch everyone.
You watch them on Sunday? Do you watch Chris and them? They got that up here yet?
They went there.
You watch the modifieds race still?
Yeah, I watch them. Yeah.
Absolutely. How can he not?
I'm just wondering if Flow Sports made it all the way up to here.
Modified, my favorite.
Yeah, he blazed the trail.
What do you think about the racing these days, and what do you think about the drivers and just
They are
fanfare?
good. They are good. I have to say they have to be smart. They got to have. They got to be real smart, and they're good. And to keep it dry, they got to put out to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, just from growing up around it and seeing, you know, Hubert Hensley's and everybody trying to create, you know, fast race cars and how they build them with, you know, with Mitchell and Tant and Mason. And I think about what they did. You know, they basically tried it. I mean, they didn't have engineering. They didn't have that kind of education that they have today with these guys. And they go in here and they put it on a telemetry and they do the whole race and the whole setup before the car ever sits at the racetrack. And it's just amazing that they know that they can put it in, that it's going to be this amount of temperature, humidity, the track temperature is going to be this. It has this much rebound or recoil, and they can do a whole simulation of a race, and the car's never left a race, never left a shop yet. And y'all, I mean, think about if y'all would have had any of that,
That's right.
I mean, you'd be Matt Hirschman. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was thinking. I said, does Hirschman have that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of people talk about it. You know, I think Hirschman, if you go and look at his stuff, it's not the newest stuff. He does some of the old traditional stuff. And I think it really works with him because, you know, he's not doing bump stop. He's not doing some of that other stuff. And I think what he's doing is trying to keep it simple. You know, your old saying, keep it simple, stupid. And I think Hirschman does a lot of that. And I think that where he's learned that the car does on springs and recoil and some of the stuff he does. I mean, he's the best at tires there is. I mean, he does his own tires and he totally understands what's going on. I just think he's used to 2001 to 1998 race car. And that's what he does. He don't get into overcomplicating.
Is it a stretch to say that, and I'm not comparing, but I'm saying put in perspective, is Hirschman kind of a modern day Richie Evans? And
I don't know, Paul. I mean, you back in the day, you was racing against Richie, and Richie was good. I mean, how did y'all think about Richie when you knew he showed up to the racetrack? He was going to be competitive. in your mind, what was you thinking about him competing against him?
I tell you, he was the best. In my book, in my book, he was the best. I say he was the best in up north, and Ray Henry the best.
I agree.
But you got to have a car. You got to have a car, and Richie could set up a car. He knew how to set up a car, just like Ed Flimpke. He said Ed Flimpke taught him more about setting up a car than anybody.
Yep.
And Richie was a friend of mine. I wrecked up there one time, and he got the car fixed back up for me, so I raced the next night. And he was that good, and he was just likable, party man.
Oh yeah,
loved living, and he was really a racer.
He's a racer's racer. That's a good way to put it. I agree with you 100%. Did when you wrecked, was you at Thompson or Stafford, or where did you wreck when he fixed it, or was it Trenton? When he helped y'all fix that car? I'm trying to remember where it was.
Where is it, Rome?
Oh yeah, Utica, Rome. Yeah,
That's where he was.
yeah, that's where Richie was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He told me, he says, now if you got a little push in your car, back off. It won't last. You won't burn your tire up. So I was running about fifth or something other, and this guy was pressing me, and I had a little push, so I let him go on. And a little later on, something must have happened to him. He slowed down. I got a little bit better, so I got back on it, and first thing I know, I hit the wall.
he set you up, maybe. I don't know. Charlie, what else you got? I know you've lived with this man right here for a long time, and I know you gravitate towards our modified racing because the path that Paul has taken, and you know he's not only your uncle, but he's one of your best friends. I mean, what do you got to say with the path that he's led you down? You know, because I know a lot of people in this area really respect you.
He let two of my loves was modified racing and hunting, and when he got done with it, the last year he drove race cars, he won a championship at New River. So somebody retired at 65 and win a championship.
That's pretty good.
I always looked up to him. But like I said, our second love was the hunting, and we have done a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what I feel about that. I got to the point that I dread Saturday come too quick.
Yeah.
Before that, Saturday didn't come quick enough.
Yeah.
And when it got to the point that Saturday come too quick, and then I just said it's time to quit.
Yeah. So you done a lot of fishing and hunting.
Oh Lord, we've done our share of that.
But I tell you what's happened to all these drivers now is that stimulators.
Oh, simulators. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, because you see them iRacing every night, which is a simulator. And there's some sophisticated simulators that are really, really good. And I'll be honest with you, that's what they're doing is they're getting a lot of seat time in there on Tuesday and Wednesday. And when you know what the track feels like, I mean, heck, back in the day, y'all used to go to these tracks brand new. You didn't know where to lift the throttle at. You just drove as far as you could.
And you run the same old setup.
Yeah. That you don't change from track to track. Yeah. You talk about Southside. I know they're trying to revive Southside, and I talked to Mr. Neal, who's kind of pushing that envelope, and he called me a few months ago, and I told him. He said, "Would you run the modifieds here?" I said, "Absolutely. I would love to run the modifieds at Southside."
Southside,
yep.
Richmond.
Yep. So they're trying to bring it back.
That was my favorite track one time. I won 19 races 1 year.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
19.
19 1 year and 21 the next.
It's a fun racetrack.
It had a hump in it.
Isn't that where you got the nickname the Ferrum Flash? He said Sonny Hutchins gave you that nickname, didn't he?
He sure did, yeah.
What did he give it to you for?
I was outrunning him. I guess I was outrunning him all the time down in Richmond.
Yeah, well, if you won 19 of them, you was. So tell me about the hump.
Yeah. At one time, there was a hump in it. When I was winning all them races, it had a hump. You go over that hump, my old car set down just perfect for me to hit the gas when it set down. They took that hump out, and I could not get around it no more. Yeah.
Well, I'll be darned. Well, it's kind of what the stadium's going on right now. They got a hump in theirs, and like I said, Bert was the first one that passed somebody on the outside for years. And, I mean, it was crazy that, with the hump being out there, you got to kind of cross it at a right direction. I'm sure it's probably what you did, point it in the right direction with the hump. But It was pretty amazing. Did you when you won the doubleheader at Martinsville? Did you win a clock? Did you ever win a clock?
Yeah.
So they were giving the clocks away back in too.
Got 2 clocks.
That's good. You didn't give Charlie one yet?
I gave my daughter one.
That's awesome. So your daughter has one. That's awesome.
He said of all his racing, that was the tiredest. He said that about killed him.
I bet it did.
I was wore out.
I bet you were. That's a lot of laps at Martinsville.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know about. So you know, for anybody that doesn't know, I'm putting this in perspective. It was 2 races in one day, 250 laps each. One in the sportsman, one in the modified, and you won both of them. I mean, a driver today, they'd be hanging out of their car.
Ray Henricks and I was the only 2 that ever done it.
I agree. I was going to say you was only 2. How many times you win Martinsville altogether?
7.
So
times.
you're probably close to the second winningest driver behind Ray at Martinsville. Well, besides Petty. I mean, Petty won 15, there, but I'm just saying, well, if you got to put it in perspective, I mean, you got 48, you got Gordon, but you're up there 7 times at Martinsville. Mm-hmm. That's a ton. That's a lot. And I love going to those races back in the day. They were so much fun.
So is there 7 clocks sitting in here?
No, he's got a few though, he said. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, what did you remember from that day when you won both of them? I mean,
he was tired.
you weren't too tired to party though, were you?
I think we come to the barbecue down there, and all that bunch down was hooping and hollering and drinking and celebrating.
Mama wouldn't let me come about kill me.
Yeah,
they really had us poured it on.
Yeah, I remember you winning. I was a youngster, but I remember you winning. But I don't remember the dominance of the race. I don't remember if it was something that happened during the race. I don't remember much about it. I knew you was in the 07 and the 5, but I don't remember. I remember you winning, and I remember you holding both trophies because hardly anybody ever did that. But I don't remember much about the competition that day. Like if you led a lot of the race, or you know anything about that? Do you remember?
Well, I started 14 in one of them and 15 in the other, so I don't know. I don't know how many.
Well, you passed a lot of cars, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't. I really don't.
I can't even remember what I had for dinner last night. I mean, that's crazy. That's kind of a common thing. We have a lot of the drivers, and it's, you kind of think about it, and you look at the safety you all had back then. I love that picture.
That picture's awesome. That's a good looking picture right there.
With the safety they had back then, with the hits you all were taking, with the lack of medical care they have compared to today. I mean, you'd almost think most race car drivers, when you sit down with them, would be kind of like boxers, when they get up. But I don't know, the sharpest people I've spoke with, and y'all can remember where you started, where you finished, who wrecked you on what lap. I mean, it's crazy how that stuff sticks with y'all for so long. You just don't forget about it.
Paul was in really good shape back then. We're talking about when he was 65, when he was 50 or 55 and really running good about everywhere he went. I was just a teenager, 16 to 17 years old, and he had a cabin over at Philpott Lake. He'd get up and say, come on, we're going to jog down to the lake. Well, it was a mile down there, so that meant it was a mile back. And, and I said, does he feel like running down there and back? And he would. And they made him a bet down there one day. Anybody that's familiar with Twin Ridge, how much, Paul, they bet you couldn't swim across that lake?
Yeah, me and Armando was about half drunk. I don't swim from the Twin Ridge to Goose Point, and I did, but I was so daggone tired. I had the backstroke and all that stuff, But my daughter come along. She said, "Come on, Dad." I said, "Get in this boat. You don't mean it." I said, "No, I'm going all the way." And then I wanted to get in. She said, "No, you ain't. You stay."
Yeah.
So you're ahead of your time then, when you're like, I don't know when they figured out in racing it's better to be in shape, but that probably had a lot to do with it. And if you could run and swim like that, it probably had a lot to do with.
I tried to eat good and stay in shape. I don't know. I got my mind heard something about these fighters. I always eat a lot of raw or rare meat.
Yeah.
I always try to eat a lot of raw meat or rare meat, and try to stay in shape. I tried to stay in shape, and I didn't drink. I tried drinking a beer one time at Starkey before the race, and I never been so tired in all my life. And I never drank nothing before I raced.
I'm 58 now, and it ain't no way. If you got up in the morning, Chris said, "Come on, we're gonna run a mile down, a mile back." I said, "I'd like to ride my bicycle."
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm his age now, and it ain't no way I could do it. So he's in good shape.
Oh yeah.
You was talking about practicing racing, running from the law, but it sounds like you was running on foot from a law a lot too, and you got in shape there and got practice.
No, I never did really run on foot that much, but me and my buddy Clifford was got the road blocked on us in West Virginia, and we slipped over they had the road blocked on me. What was going down this street, this road right between a hollow, and the car lot over here, and it was buildings on each side the road, and the road turned and goes to the left. It goes up over a little hump. Then the railroad goes over one of those holes, I call it.
Yeah.
And the road went under it,
Yep.
Well, when I turned in to go, my customer was just on the other side of that tunnel.
Right.
And when I turned in, they were sitting in the car lot across the street there, and they got right on my bumper. And here I take off. Got up onto that little nose. They had the road blocked. I slammed on the brake and slid over the bank. And Clifford was still sitting in the car. I said, "Just go, Cliff. You got to get." So he opened the door, and he just fell right out. And there's a creek down there where it come under that tunnel. The water coming out of that tunnel. And he went up the creek, and I jumped it and went up there and got on the railroad track. And by the time I got up there on the railroad track, I heard an awful squall. I know they didn't call him. When they called him, he had the awful squall. It just sounded pitiful, And about that time, I was on the railroad track. They threw the light on me and said, "Halt, you son of a bitch." And I guess I jumped 5 feet down them cinders on that railroad track down in the big old rock boulders.
Hell yeah.
And I had on a white T-shirt. And I pulled that thing off, and I seen a little dark spot up there. This is middle of the night. No fast light, no nothing. And it's a moonlight night, though. It's one good thing. It's a moonlight night. And I went crawling under these briars and brush, and I heard him talking. I don't know what that SOB is. I don't know. They was throwing lights everywhere, and I heard that train coming. When that train could come up, man, I hit that mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was daylight time I got top of that mountain. And I was thinking about them daggone copperheads and all that good stuff.
So I got to thinking about this. How many cars did you not get back? Did you get that car back?
No.
I bet you didn't.
No, I didn't get
Lost
it back.
your truck, lost your car.
I lost a truck and a car and 2 trucks and a car.
You'd like to have them back, wouldn't you?
Huh?
You'd like to have them back, wouldn't you?
I bought the truck, but one of my trucks back.
Did you really?
Yeah, I bought one back.
That's pretty awesome.
How about the one you put in the funeral home down there? Did you get it back?
The what?
That one you rolled up in the funeral home. Did you get it back?
That belongs to my dad. I didn't have no driver's
We're going to
license.
start from the front here. You rolled a car into a funeral home. Please tell us how this happened.
I was driving a pickup truck, and it had a.
You wrecked a lot.
I sure did.
I'm just picking with
I
you.
told people that I was testing for NASCAR.
Test dummy.
But we was going in town that night with my pickup, my dad's pickup, and I didn't have a driver's license, and there's 4 of us in the cab. And I went in, and it's going down sharp turns on the streets, turned it over on the side right at the funeral home. And the town cop, he opened the door up, and it fall back down. Well, Harmon knows, and he kicked the door open, and then finally the cop, town cop caught it. And said, all right, boys, y'all get out. Well, everybody got out, and everybody run, but Harmon, the cop got Harmon. Me and the other boys went on to the movie. That's where we started.
It's crazy. That's awesome.
You know, that's stuff like you see on the movies, isn't it?
Actually, we could write a movie. This would be a great movie. It would be fun.
You know, if I'd run from the law and got away from him, and the last thing I'd think about, let's go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Well, what else you going to do at that point? You know what I'm saying?
We was drunk. We was all drunk, but me and Harmon was drunk, but the three boys that we picked up, they won. They were brothers, and they were going to the movie. And I knew them, you know, so I picked. It wasn't no room on the back to put them in that. We had a bed, kind of a cattle bed on the back. So they all got in it. And we went in that town, cut the sharp, and speeded, and you know, it turned over up on the side, and all of it was on me.
Oh boy, laid it on top of it. So tell us about the old racetrack up here. What's the name of it? What's the name of the track up here?
Broadside Speedway.
Broadside Speedway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that used to be on the side of the hill right here?
Right there where the shed is.
Oh, where the shed is?
Around.
That's where you honed your skills. Did anybody hone your skills with you? How many you got to run it? Did you run it, Charlie?
Oh, I was just a little fella. He wouldn't let me get out there and act crazy. But I get to watch him and Smitty and them, some of the older boys.
And Chris.
Yeah, Chris Perlman's got the distillery here.
Yeah.
You would think it was a big storm coming because, see, it was red dirt out there. It'd be so dusty, it looked like a fire.
Yeah.
It just ran and ran.
Hey, that's the way to do it. We
like I said, when you're a kid growing up, how could you not like to come up here?
Oh, absolutely.
Up on the hill up there, it's all downhill, and he had 2-wheel horse lawnmowers. And me and him would take them things up yonder. He said, be careful now, because, you know, lawnmowers got short wheelbase. We'd knock them things out of gear. We'd come back down through here.
Down through this hill?
Yeah, back down by his driveway.
So, did you ever flip it? That's awesome.
No, I watched him. All I had to do is watch Paul.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Bodine, you got a lot of history in racing, and you've helped independents, you've helped different individuals. What do you think? I mean, Paul is probably, he didn't only blaze the trail. You got to understand he's the deep roots of, a moonshine runner trying to survive, but also, a wheelman at the same time. And he's won some of the biggest races there is all across the East Coast. What's your overall view? I mean, sitting here listening to all this.
So when I look back and think about all the independents and all the guys that I see, Paul as one of the guys definitely that blazed the trail, because not only did they race to put food on the table. They raced 3 or 4 nights a week. They didn't just show up on Sundays with a car that was ready for them all the time. They showed up 3 or 4 nights a week. They went all over the country. They would fly, ride, trains, whatever. And the car would be there, and they did that just to put food on the table. And I really I'm took back by that, because the history and everything there, it's amazing to sit here and talk about, just hear the stories of how that, we don't get that today because the drivers aren't doing that. They sign a contract for millions and millions of dollars, and, they live in big houses, and they fly corporate jets to the track. Paul here, he had to race 3 or 4 times a week all summer long. It's really good, because I believe we're in that racing renaissance right now. It's really good to be able to hear these stories about the short track experience and what it was really based on. We see it on TV. We've heard Junior Johnson stories all our lives. We've heard Dale Earnhardt stories all our lives. And now we hear Paul Radford's story. It means a lot that we can add this into that collection of history. A lot of it wasn't told before. And
they're not telling a lot of it now, just to protect the innocent.
The statute of limitations is run out.
And that's okay, but that's what makes it so good, because there's still people around that witnessed a lot of what was taking place. And, Paul never really asked you, I'm sure you race for the love of it, the competitiveness of it. Was it more about the money of it, or was it more about the pure excitement of competition?
The excitement. That's the excitement.
Yeah. I haven't asked you that.
I love to outrun everybody, but I found out you didn't win them all.
Right. People got to learn that.
But I tried to.
Yeah, absolutely you did.
But that's just the fun. It wasn't as I say, wasn't no money in it. Like back when I was racing, there just wasn't no money in it. If you didn't get a little help from the promoters, you couldn't have made it.
Yeah.
And I did get a little help from some of them. And but my best years is when I owned my own car, and Don Bryant kept it up for me, and I paid him 30% of what I won, and we had two good years. Then we thought we was going to go back next year with all new stuff and be competitive and everything. First thing I done is blow the motor. The next thing happened, I wrecked. So there goes all my 2 years work.
Absolutely.
Go down the drain. So I said, well, I'm going to drive somebody else. I can't afford the car. So I own my own car now for a couple of years. And I've had people to come to me and want me to drive for them, but they want some sponsorship, want some help, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I just want somebody that had a good car and had plenty of money.
Oh, absolutely. What, you think about the history of the modifieds, and, back in the day, the Martinsville was probably one of the biggest races there is, coming down here with the Northerners and the Southerners. And I know, y'all look forward to them a couple of weeks they come down here.
Sure did. I enjoyed it. And I loved the Northern boys. They were really good. And then I don't know what happened. That they just quit coming. All their fans, they just I don't know what happened.
Well, I kind of relate it, and I hate to say it this way, but I kind of relate it to what NASCAR went when Earnhardt passed. When Richie passed, it kind of changed a little bit, and there's some great race car drivers up north, and you think about what you ran against with Troyer and Ruggiero, and with Flemke and Bugsy Stevens, and those guys. When y'all beat them, you knew you did something.
That's right. And I went to South Boston. I went to South Boston here a while back and watched that race. Those guys are good. They are really good. They are professional.
They are good. They are really good. And that's like we done the revival this week, and we think about where the modified's going. And I tell people this all the time. I even wrote an email. These guys are so honed into what they're doing with these race cars, and they're built. You got Troyer, and you got PSR, and you got Fury, and you got so many different cars. Back then, you just had what you bought off of the dealership, and made a few subtle changes with it. But they're not making a lot of money doing it. But at the same time, they're putting everything they can in it to be competitive. And a lot of it's from influence from somebody that's raced before them. It could be their dad, could be their uncle, could be a race car driver, and you can see the passion. And I say this all the time. I think about it with the drivers around here, just leave it better than you found it. And that's the whole series of modified racing. And that's what we're trying to do, going forward. But we also can't forget our past, our history, of the people that's paved the way that, strapped in these race cars when, they were totally different. And that's why I gravitate towards, the Pauls and the Satches and the Billy Hensleys and the Jimmy Hensleys. And then you think about all the characters that built these race cars, Tom Compton, Clarence Pickrell, Clyde Barber. You think about Masons, you think about Puff, you think about Flute Hudson. He always built a really good race car for those guys. And you think about everybody that strapped in, and, these guys were a different breed. And it paved a way for all of us, but it really paved a way for the short track historian to understand what they had to do to get here. And that's why I like the modified racing. That's why I like to sit here and talk about this history, because you're only giving us 1% of your life. You know, you're only giving us 1% of what you went through, and we're trying to capture it in an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just not enough time in America. But I really appreciate you. I don't know if you guys have anything else for them.
It's been phenomenal.
But I really appreciate you giving us this hour and a half. I've been wanting to do it. I mean, you've had a couple of conversations, and me and Charlie talk about the history of, you know, what you've accomplished, and I appreciate it. I really thank everything you've done and giving us this time.
Oh man, when I was a kid, that's all I was looking forward to. That's what I wanted to do. And my mom, which is Paul's sister, said that ain't gonna happen.
Did she tell you don't let him go down the same path, right? Well, I tell you what, you're 90-some years old, and I think if I told you to go and get in a race car, you'd do it. I don't know if you'd run a race, but I think you would do it.
I don't know.
Look, he didn't say no, though, did he?
Nope.
I'll be 91 next month.
I know.
So these, I'm getting a little weak. I'm getting a little tired and weak, and this thing I got to get up and go. I had, but I still enjoy talking about it, and I've enjoyed my life with the racing and the people I race with, and everybody's treated me nice and good. With some of them, kind of been a little rough.
It happens,
but had a few bump ups and here and there, but they still having it. They still have little bump ups. They
are. It happens all the time. So, and you're not going to change that in competitive auto racing. You're just not going to change.
This year, what they call the watermelon man, he's going to be another Earnhardt, I believe.
Well, I can't wait to talk about it.
Well, I'm going to say maybe, because you know how it goes. When somebody starts racing you that way, it tends to fix itself out. Earnhardt was a little different. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah. It'll change. It'll change.
Yeah, he'll change. But he's got good equipment, and he's a good driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's good.
Is that who you pulling for on Sundays now?
I've been what's number 5.
Larson.
I've been a Larson fan.
Well, he's vast. I mean, he can run on pavement. He can run on dirt. And he's doing extremely well.
About a lot of common similarities right there. I mean, 50 years ago, he might have been the Kyle Larson of the racing world. So
that's right.
Yeah,
somebody just go anywhere, get behind the wheel of anything.
He gets out there to race. I like a person to get out there to race, getting out there to ride for the last 20 laps, which that's the way they all win and make the money. They get the sponsors and everything, but I still like to see them run every lap like they're racing.
Yep.
But they don't do that.
Yeah, you're right. It's a big difference. They're saving tires, or they're either trying to win the stage, or they're trying to not win the stage and get out first. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of strategy that's in the racing more than that.
That's right. And I'll tell you something else. I thought that number 4, Kevin Harvick would win that race, because it's Michigan, and it's a Ford, and he's getting the Fords are getting a little bit better.
They're getting a little bit better. They're still behind, but they're getting a little bit better.
They're getting a little bit better, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won't be running for the championship.
Well, they're getting better at the right time.
Yeah.
And you know how that trend goes. Look at Chase. He could get out of his own way. In the last, 7 or 8 races, he, dominated.
But all those guys are good. They all good. They got them stimulators. They can do.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Paul, hey, boys talking about how well you like racing. Tell them you like going to Richmond so good. Tell them what happened going to Richmond and then coming back too.
I got a speed ticket going and got a speed ticket coming.
Was it the same guy?
Not the same guy, but I was tried at the same courthouse.
That's not on the same day too, right?
No.
Oh, different day.
Yeah, my brother-in-law says, I know a lawyer that says he can fix it up for you. I think we save you permit. So he would try me one week, and a week or two later, try me again. And the judge says, "You see the one we had in here last week?"
Well, I can relate, because Earnhardt called me down there for a meeting in Charlotte, and I was late, and I got a speeding ticket, and I went to the wrong place. So I had to turn around and come back. and I got another ticket, not from the same guy, but within a mile of the other one. And when I got there, Earnhardt's like, "What are you doing?" He said, "You're really late." He said, "You said it's going to be 10 minutes late." I said, "Well, those two cops had a different idea." He said, "Give me them tickets." So I didn't have to go to court.
Okay.
Let's just put it to you that way.
How about
All
that?
respect, so.
Yeah. All right, guys, what you got? Anything else?
That's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's. Before we get off of here, it's been an honor. It's been, I've heard Paul Radford stories since I was a kid. My dad been telling them, and I kind of sit back and put all this into perspective. And this is something really unique right here. I mean, even the Dale Jr. podcast doesn't have this. They haven't had the guests on here, the guys that can really tell you the history. I mean, they got a lot. They've got a few here and there, but I'm sitting here at this table and I'm listening to these stories, and I mean, Paul and Red Farmer might be the two, most historically active race car drivers we have in the entire country right now, as far as, their knowledge and where they were at in the racing world.
Well, I know Paul outrun Red here at Martinsville because I looked it up. Red run at 97 in the modified series back in the 60s, and I know you outrun him, but Red raced at Martinsville a few times. Him and Donnie and Bobby raced.
I can guarantee you, Red be ready for a rematch right now. It don't matter. It don't matter.
Well, you know what? I think Paul's ready too, to be honest with you. So, you know what? Maybe we can make the track up here on the hill, broadside again. Let's do it.
I'm ready for it. I've had a blast, and like I said, it's been pretty surreal to sit here with a legend. Honestly, I mean, there's not much out there in the racing world, and in fact, we got to thank Chris and Charlie both for y'all's time and for making this happen. And for Chris, this is probably number 3. I mean, 3 or 4 of the legends he's had on here, and hopefully more are going to be coming.
And I ain't got paid yet. I mean, I ain't got paid a dime to do this.
That's funny. We hadn't got paid a dime from the Smart Tour for all that promotion either. So, I think we're even.
No, I think this story needs to be told, and and that's what I said. You can't let these guys get too far down where they may forget or whatever else, because they've paved the way for a lot of these racers today, and I just don't like that time to go that they can't get their story out, at least some of it, because they all have a story. Every single one of them do, and I love hearing them. I really appreciate the time today.
Yep,
Absolutely.
I loved it. I've had a blast. And for everybody out there, Chris, thank you again. Charlie,
Absolutely.
Paul, Bodine.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, we didn't get into Wilkesboro a lot this show. We're getting ready to close up shop and go do another podcast. These Lug Nuts, we're going to get into Wilkesboro a little bit more. So be sure to tune over and check that out. Both of them being released today. So if you listen to this one, go check that one out.
Yeah, thanks for y'all's time. As Billy said, this was a conversation with a legend, and it's special to us because we grew up right here, and these legendary stories are right here, and they're ours to share with the world, and so it's fun.
And I do know, before Chris signs off here, I do know that after we release this episode, we're going to get hundreds of people sending us messages for stories that we forgot talking about. So hopefully maybe in 6 or 8 months or something, you're still up to it. We can come back and do it again and touch base on some of the stories we forgot about.
I hope I'm here.
I appreciate your time. I really do. Thank you very much.
I don't mind doing it. I enjoy talking about it myself.
Brings up some good stuff. Charlie? Appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely.
We talk about it every time we get together, so I know it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot of stories that didn't come out today. We got more.
We're going to have to get together and tell more then. Maybe go down to the cabin one day and drink a few beers and tell some stories.
I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much.
Y'all have a good one.